Thank you everyone for being here. And we have, as you know, you have seen the invite, we have Dr. Partha Ghosh and Anand over here. Anand has been given a new title today, Bhumi Putra, by Mafia. And Dr. Partha Ghosh is here. Very quickly, just for the formality, let me tell you that Dr. Partha Ghosh is a true global citizen. He lives in Boston. He is very active at the Tufts University. He's the chairman of the very famous Boston Pledge, as we all know. And he's a very reputed, authentic advisor to many governments. He's an advisor to many government departments all over the world. He is an advisor to corporates. He's on many corporate boards. And his association with NSBT is since the last 3 years, since NSBT was formed, but he's associated with the Kagliwal family from a long time, though, I must say. Welcome, come. And we have Anand here, and Anand seems to me, someone who has just come out of oblivion and is storming the city now with his sessions all across the city. And even for me, till before a few months, this whole concept about AI was hugely mystified. And we were flowing with the hype of what is happening. But really what AI is for business, what is enterprise AI, how does it work, and what difference will it make to business decisions is something which Anand is very passionate to talk about. He delivers it to global organizations all across different geographies. So today's session, the way we have planned it is Anand will speak about his subject, but relate it more to the strategic grounding. And Dr. Partha Ghosh will speak about the importance of vision and values, amongst other things, and related to how we have to take strategic altitude or strategic elevation. So both these things coming together is the idea which every leader wants. A great combination of vision and execution is what leads to transformation. So I will like Anand, you to go first, and then followed by Dr. Partha Ghosh. So over to you, and please find ability here.
Thank you, Harsh, and good evening, everybody. I think some of you have heard me into some different forums. I see some familiar faces. But it's really very emotional to be back in this city, be talking to most of the second generation guys I see here. But I'm the first generation entrepreneur. My parents were teachers in Ambezogai. I was born and brought up in Ambezogai, did my engineering in Aurangabad. That's the only connection I have with this city. But I went and saw the globe, started paying my daughters $100,000 per year tuition fee. Then I realized the importance of Aurangabad, that I did my engineering at 250 rupees here. And I said, I need to give back something to the city. So I'm actually present in this city for 10 years. And as Harsh said, it is a well-kept secret of the town. I'm not part of any association. I'm not part of any groups. I generally traveled from Boston, just conducted my business, went back. But I'm sure some of you are Messiah members, and you were there with Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis 2 months ago, talked from the stage without naming me or my company. He said there is one company from Sambhajinagar, which was way before AI came into the world. They came to me and presented AI, and that company is from Sambhajinagar. That is my company. We do true AI work. We do enterprise AI work right from this city. We are doing it for 10 years. We are now about 150 people. With the tailwinds we have in our business, hopefully we'll be able to add up to 300, 400 people in next few years. But this business doesn't get counted by number of people working into it. So it's a very interesting dynamics to show the growth of the company. But very, very passionate about contributing to this city, contributing to the local economy. And the subject which the NSBT guys have picked up is really very interesting about how the entrepreneurship, the national interest, and our personal interest, because finally, show me the money is the only principle of the business. And we all get valued, we all get evaluated based on the revenues and the profits and the growth, but then how do we balance with the national interest? And I think it's really interesting and is a subject of my passion also, because I keep telling my team members that this business is not for bread alone, my business. because I traveled the corporate world, worked for 20 years as an employee. Every dream overnight success is 15 years in making, which is my case, that it took me 20 years to start my own business. So after going through that, I could have easily done a job and earned probably 10 times or 20 times more than what I'm earning today. But when I started this, the passion is really, how do we create technology? How do we change organization? How do we make an impact? And every single use case, if you see the way we are working with global corporations, we make return on investment very visible to every customers. AI should not be adopted only for the sake of adoption. So before I go and talk about the interesting points about the leadership in enterprise and national interest, first is about my company name, which again, some of you may find interesting. Most of the people in Sambhajinagar even can't pronounce it. They find it very difficult, confusing. Can this be a company name, which is Findability Sciences? And one of the key ability for any enterprise, and particularly all those are established businesses here in Sambhajinagar, is basically ability to find information. And ability to find information is a very key quality, efficiency parameter for a business, because finally we all work on information. We take decisions based on information. So a few years ago, I had this spark in my brain saying that ability to find information is going to be a key ability for any enterprise, and therefore there can be a technology which can improve your ability to find information. So I left my very rewarding job and decided to set up this company. And what should be the company name? Typically, people from our backgrounds think about wife's name, kid's name, family name, alphabets of family. But then I came up with this idea, the ability to find information is findability, which is not an English word. So I coined that word, and then it is a science, because finally it's a technology and it's a science. So ability to find information can be a science. Started doing that, which was basically connecting different datas and giving unified information access. And then that became now a foundation for artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about how artificial intelligence works, and again, why it finally ties down into the national interest and what you guys are doing. Because every nation, and particularly now in India, which we all just talk about the growth, the exuberance, the activities we are seeing, and everybody, in fact, very interesting. I was in Dubai 2 weeks ago at the Dubai Sugar Conference, and I was one of the speakers, and there were people from Indian origin. And everybody from Indian origin was talking about two words, which are taken from Mr. Modi. One is Vikasit Bharat, and second is that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. While it's all good, but when it comes to practice in their own enterprises, I don't know how much they adopt to it, how much they follow to it. But there's a lot of talk. Globally, it is a talk. In India, there is absolute energy. In fact, me and Prachi, last 3 weeks we are in India, and we are thinking that, why are we in Boston? It's snowing, it's cold, it's dark there, and this is absolutely buzzing place. But India's growth story will not continue the same way. Like we're just, me and Partha on the car, we're talking about this AI summit in Delhi. In fact, most of the people question me, Anand, how come you are not in Delhi? You claim you are AI, you are in AI, you are on global platforms, but you are not in Delhi. So will such events of creating summits, creating these gatherings, will it help the nation to grow or not is a still question, and the jury is still out about it. But my first point to you on going on to this national strategy and enterprise is that we all entrepreneurs, at least in this room, at our own capacity, we need to see how we can tie that into nation strategy to growth. Because if you see America, if you see Japan, if you see all these successful stories in the world, only the private companies have driven the nation's growth, the nation's capability, and we can do it. And this group, and particularly those who are blessed with the second generation, getting businesses from their parents, you are absolutely in a controlling stage to not make this as a big statement on the big podiums, but actually practice it in whatever small way and do it. So we all are running businesses for profits. Okay, we want profits, we want nice life, and there's nothing to have a profit as a strategy in any business. It's not wrong, it is the strategy. We all are running business. In fact, since everybody is an adult in this room, I can tell you one very interesting story which Dr. Lalit Kanodia, who was my boss at Datamatics, Dr. Lalit Kanodia is considered as a father of Indian IT industry. He was the first PhD from MIT Boston in 1960s, and J.R.D. Tata bought him from Boston to start the first IT company of India, which was Tata Consulting. And so therefore he was the first CEO. He started Tata Consulting, ran for a couple of years, and then left and started Datamatics. So he's considered as the father of the IT industry. And his job that time was those punch cards and data entry and etc. And his largest customer was Reliance. And he was very, very close to Dhirubhai Ambani. And one day, I used to work for him for 8 years, both in US and in India. And I was sitting in Dr. Kanodia's cabin, and our accounts guy came in the room and was talking about outstandings and this customer's business revenue and etc. And that time, Dr. Kanodia shared with me, he said, Dhirubhai Ambani had told me one mantra, that if you are getting married and if you don't go for honeymoon, there is no fun. So if you are doing business and if you don't make profits, there is no fun. So that line is etched in my brain from those days, that if you're doing something, the outcome also has to be seen parallelly. You can't just say that I'm doing business and I don't have my collection, or outstanding is there, my profits are not there. So profit is absolutely must for us, but that should be bought into the interest into the nation's building in terms of doing the right things and making sustainable business. One of the things which I proudly, and Harsh heard it many times, is that I claim, and by the way, nobody has objected me so far. I have claimed it in public forums. I have claimed it in front of analysts, that Findability Sciences is the only enterprise AI company on the earth, and I'm making a very big statement, which is revenue making, profit making, no debt, and is sustained through all the storms, including pandemic. You guys will be surprised that in pandemic, we were in such a low that if I would not have kept courage, we would have been dead. 60% contracts got cancelled overnight. 150 employees working in Sambhajinagar and Mumbai, we had to disperse them into various cities because they went home, and we had no system that they can work from home because there was no concept prior to that. And with confidential data handling, etc., I'll not go there, but what I'm saying is that when I say that I build a sustainable business, my request to all of you, the entrepreneurs in this room, is that sustainability has to be the key along with profitability. Just creating debts and profits for the sake of showing revenue and sake of showing growth is no more fun. Now, Harsh talked about artificial intelligence, and you guys are saying this guy is giving me GAN on profits and sustainability, but artificial intelligence now interestingly ties into this, okay? Because this is a new technology. Over the last couple of sessions, I have spoken, and the conference which we conducted on 14th, which was a big success in the city. I'm sure some of you must have seen the full page coverage from Lokmat Times. In that, I first time told in Sambhajinagar that all the innovation humans have done on this earth, and this is very interesting, you guys can check this after going home also. Any tool, any technology which we built is an extension of our body part. So what we have done on this earth, that humans always said that God has given me these 20 capacities or 200 capacities. How do I enhance that with technology? So let's take our eyes. We can see it, but I can't see far away, so we invented binoculars. We have legs, we can walk some distance, but I wanted to go farther, so we invented bicycle. We have hands, we can lift the weight, but I can go up to 100, 200, 500 kg. I want to lift 1 ton, so we invented crane. And I can keep going. You can now think about yourself. Each of the body part, human beings have extended, and our limitation is only that. What this divine, God, whatever universe we want to say, or nature we want to say, whatever capabilities that has given, humans have tried just extending that to make sure that we can make use of those capacities in a larger way. The only one thing we couldn't do it successfully so far is extending our brain capacity. Think about it. We invented every body part. We extended every body part to do more, but we couldn't do. What was the biggest innovation in our lifetimes, particularly in last 20, 30 years, is a calculator. We cannot do millions and billions of calculation through our brain, so we wanted some device to do it. So that was extension of our brain. And the relentless effort in the computer science over last 30 years was that how do we extend humans' brain capacity to do something? And for the first time, and that's the reason there is a Delhi summit, and that's the reason there is an uproar on AI, is for the first time, we are now seeing the glimpses that what human brain can do, now we have a tool or a machine which can probably extend our brain capability. So what is the brain capability we have? So I was giving again this afternoon the example to the soldiers, that if we have a pet dog at home, and for some reason you scold that pet this morning, you come back in the evening, it still start jumping on you, start wagging the tail, very happy to see you. Think about doing that same thing with your wife, father, mother, brother, sister. If you still come back in the evening, they are still grumpy. That's because of the only one quality or one capability human brain has is a memory. And that memory is what we were all trying to mimic into computer science all these years. And some way it succeeded, some way it failed, it was not possible because the computing technologies, why the NVIDIA stock is going up is because it can help me create more memory. So all these years, the hardware and software technology was trying to keep a pace where the human brain's capability of memorizing something, can I mimic that into the computers? And because now we have the computing power more, we have storage capacity more, it has also become now easily accessible. Now there is an aha moment that I can actually have machines memorize something. Now, if you memorize something, what happens? If you memorize something, you can now predict something. Think about it. In what we do, by memorizing, by studying in the school, by learning how to drive, by learning how to run a machine, by learning something, we are constantly predicting what next. And somehow, interestingly, the machines, the computer machines, if we create memory into them, they have now started predicting. And you as an entrepreneur, linking back into your profitability and sustainability, two principles which I believe are important for our nation building, because we don't want, I personally, quote unquote, and I don't want to use the word hate, I'll say I don't like this unicorn concept. There's a mad rush globally, particularly America taught us to create unicorns. But those were just paper valuations. Most of the, while there are few successful stories, there are more failures. Because we are not going towards sustainability and profitability. We are going towards valuation, and we wanted to just make something look big and promising, and everybody's putting money. Just imagine how many lives are hurt with that. Our most famous education company in India. During pandemic, it boomed. After that, it crashed. So coming back to memory, that if we can create memory, how can it help us to create profitable and sustainable business? Is what is the first thing, is I can teach a machine like I can teach a human. So whatever size business you are running today, you have data in your organization. A lawyer uses unstructured data. As MSME manufacturing business creates structured data. So these two concepts as entrepreneurs you must know, that as we human learn from textbooks, listening to such conversations, reading, social interactions, the machine can learn from only two things, is the structured data and unstructured data. So if your organization has structured and unstructured data, you can actually create a corporate memory. And if you can create corporate memory, like human brain, that corporate memory can start predicting, because you all today, as of this evening, work on only two answers up to the questions. The first question is what happened and what is happening. Think about it. When you talk to your team members, when you go back to your desk, when you go into your offices, when you go into your factories, you have only two questions answers, which is what happened, how many products we produced, how much profits we did, how much revenues we did, how many employees left, how many employees came, so what happened, or worse come worse, what is happening, because you can go and stand in front of a machine and read the readings on that, what is the temperature, what is the pressure, whether this machine is making noise, whether there are vibrations, so what is happening. But if you really go back and to create a sustainable and profitable business, you actually need two questions to be answered, not these two. And the two questions which you need answered, which you will say now yes, is what will happen and what to do. And so far, there was no technology available to answer these two questions for you. So you always avoided asking someone, and some of us succeeded, some of us failed, because we have better ability to know what will happen and what to do. Those who didn't have the ability, they failed, and they took different routes. But here comes a good news for you, is that if you can create a corporate memory with a machine, the machine now has the ability to tell you what will happen and what to do. So that's the first principle of enterprise AI, and therefore the size doesn't matter. It's not that AI is only for X billion-dollar company size. The AI can be for you also, provided you have structured and unstructured data and you have interest in creating corporate memory. And you, as a mostly second-generation entrepreneurs in this room, you have huge corporate memory. You have operations for last 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And you have that corporate memory which you can teach a machine, and the machine can learn from it and can tell you what will happen and what to do. And that's the first area of AI, which is called predictive AI. So how predictive AI is going to help us in building nation? If you manage well by knowing what will happen and what to do, you will be able to do a profitable business. Your cost will be low because you will know what will happen. For example, we were just talking about inventory optimization. Even for an automotive supplier, small MSME company in Sambhajinagar, you have some of your capital locked into dead inventory. Today you are optimizing it based on your experience. You say, I know it, I know this business, therefore I'm doing it. But what happens if machine gives you some different dimension? We work with a company named Daikin, which I'm sure most of you have heard name about. It's the largest air conditioner manufacturer in the company, in the world. Their Austin, Texas plant, the compound wall on one side is 1.5 kilometers. It's that big size of factory. It's the second largest manufacturing facility in America after Boeing aircrafts, manufacturing domestic air conditioners. They have 1,000 types of products with Daikin. So 1,000 types of SKUs or the products they develop and sell. Imagine for 1,000 SKUs, how many parts they bring. Right from electronics to coils to gas to coverage to everything. So this massive production facility which supplies to 350 markets in America, they were doing predictive analytics through the old tools. Like everybody says, oh, we have SAP HANA, and SAP comes and their salespeople says, oh, this is the AI, built-in AI. Nowadays, everybody talks about built-in AI. SAP also tell, and I'm not talking about SAP in a bad way, I'm just giving a funny example, that they will tell you that there's an AI and you can do prediction through this and etc. So Daikin, before working with us, they were operating at about 65% accuracies, and they were happy with it. So when I went and pitched to them like this, convinced to them that 65% is not an accuracy where you can operate a $27 billion company. So they said, how much you can do it? And I said, my guesswork based on the data you have is we can take it to as much as about 95%. This is now 6th year we are working with Daikin. Every single year, the CEO and the annual event, it opens up in January, the global event, he talks about Findability Sciences, average $22 to $40 million saving every year. Because 1,000 SKUs, the components which are coming in, and we have not done anything. We have not bought in a new software. Just they have data. We have put a model on top of it, which tells them what will happen and what to do. Which units will get sold where, how many quantities, and all above 95% accuracies. So think about your business. We're talking about some of the automotive manufacturers the last 2-3 days in one-on-one meetings. Even the automotive manufacturers who give you orders, okay, there can be method to bot to that by AI, and we can do the predictive analytics for them also and for you also, and you'll be able to save your inventory, your supply chain, your manpower cost, your energy cost, and incremental changes. I was just sharing about sugar manufacturing. We work with sugar manufacturers, and we implemented in 6 sugar mills in India. Worldwide now, we are the only AI company in the world where we are dominant in sugar industry, interestingly, more by accident than design. I didn't know how to even, other than spelling sugar and eating sugar, I didn't know how it operates. But we learned and we deployed AI in the sugar mill, only 0.5% change in the sucrose extraction. Every cane has about 12 to 13% of sucrose content. And Indian mills particularly, globally if you see Brazil and South America, etc., they extract as high as 10.5 to 11% sucrose from the cane. India is very happy between 9.5 to 10%. Now I'm trying to link this back to the nation building. The cooperative sugar mills in India, the backbone of Indian economy, particularly if you take a state like Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra, which produces highest amount of sugar in the world, 0.5% saving, you would be surprised it's a saving of 40 crore rupees a year. And that too only 4 months, not even I'm talking 12 months, because the milling season is only 4 months. Now imagine how much saving it is happening to the nation, because there is a farmer involved who has used pesticides, who have used fertilizers to grow the crop well, to have the sucrose content, has imported that, bought that to the mill has extracted, every equipment is there, and it is produced, and 0.5% if we don't recover, it finally goes into just burning the bagasse at the end. And that sugar is wastage. Whereas the whole effort of a farmer is to produce sugar. And we just resign to our fate, saying that, oh, 2-3% loss is normal, we can't do it more than that. But taking the data from sensors, from their lab testing, every batch comes into the cane batch comes into the factory, we are now taking that data and we have trained AI model on the historical data as to what machine setting would change the extraction, and even moving the needle by 0.5% is crores of rupees of saving. Now think about money going back into farmers' pocket, money going back into the cooperative societies, money eventually goes back into the nation building, which was otherwise going into drain. It's completely lost money. So similarly in our businesses, there are many opportunities which will look like a profit to us, but will save resources in terms of energy, logistics, storage, go down cost, etc., etc. So first is predictive AI. Highly encourage you all to look at the possibilities of using AI in your firm. If you have structured, unstructured data, your ERP, your CRMs, your financial systems, your document, purchase orders, tenders, all this data is very, very important for you to have the predictive AI. So as the technology evolved for creating memories, the computer engineer said that so far, the predictive AI typically works on rows and columns. It works on the data which sits into Excel sheets. But I have now a lot of unstructured content. Very interesting data point for you is that from the time the iPhone came on this earth, and now, the 99% of the global data is unstructured data. Because think about how many pictures you are taking in last 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years versus prior to that. I remember my childhood in Ambezogai, where my father had one small Konica camera from military camp. One of his friend had bought it for 90 rupees. And it was precious for us to take pictures only during holidays or birthdays. But now, every 10 seconds we take pictures. It's unstructured content. We take videos, how many voice messages we are leaving, how many text messages we are doing, how many emails we are writing. All that is unstructured content. And that's another interesting thing is that if you take from the humans when they started writing on stone, probably 1 million years ago, so think about that the content we created from then to this evening, the content created in last 2 days is 99% content of the total content. So at that rapid speed we are creating content every day. Every minute now there are 6 billion emails are flying globally, every minute. So this unstructured content in your company, can that be used? Because predictive AI typically works on an Excel sheet data of rows and columns and numbers. So then there was the last few years, there is a lot of discussion in computer science and innovations, which is called interpretive AI. Can I interpret a content? I'm sure some of you must have played with Google that upload a cat and ask what is this image, and it will say that it is a cat, or it's a house with some nature in the background. So that's the interpretation of a content. So we started training machines on this unstructured content, which is image, audio, video, documents, PDFs, PowerPoints, contracts, imagine legal documents. And now it has ability to interpret. But that ability to interpret also comes from memory. So as an extension of the predictive AI, if you build a corporate memory on unstructured data, now you will be able to interpret your manuals, your SOPs, your maintenance things, your organization's procedures, you just name it. And think about that, I want to create this corporate memory for my organization, which can interpret for me without really humans getting trained onto it. Immense saving, immense potential for you to reduce your cost, reduce your manpower, increase efficiencies, increase productivity, and that is eventually again going to go to profitability and creating a sustainable business, which will even link directly to the nation building. Now, once we have interpretive AI, the biggest thing happened in the world is 2022, September, where ChatGPT came, and I'm sure everybody in this room uses ChatGPT. I'm sure everybody uses generative AI, really without knowing how it operates, really not knowing without how it is being designed or how it is developed or why it is called generative AI. The generative word is very important for you to understand. It is absolutely cool technology. You should make use of it, but make use with a great caution. Because now, as we talked about predictive, interpretive, and then the third generative, and by the way, other than these three AI, there is nothing. Okay, so all the glasses being shown in the Delhi summit, Prime Minister Modi wearing the glasses or a robot walking there, if you take all these devices, hardwares, what is there inside it is only three technologies. It's predictive, interpretive, and generative. So moving from interpretation to generation, why there was a need of a generative AI technology? As I talked about the unstructured content rise in the world, made engineers to decide that, oh, I want to interpret this image. Now there are very cool applications. You go into healthcare. We started doing X-rays and scans. Those are all images. That's unstructured content. Instead of now doctors sitting there and reading the radiology in a tired fashion at the end of the day, can I have a machine look at it? And that led to this interpretive technology where I'm talking about high level. There are again branches of that like a computer vision, just OCR, ICR. These technologies are part of the interpretation. But on a broad scale, the unstructured data is interpreted. But then what happened is 2017, the Google Mind engineers, and since it's a very accomplished group of industrialists, I highly request you to take a note of this white paper, Google it, and over the weekend, if you have capacity, please read it. And the white paper name is Attention is All What You Need. And this is the title of an American Google Mind white paper. Attention is all what you need. And this attention that all you need, white paper was published by Google Mind engineers, thinking about one more research document they published, and very proudly they published in a public domain, without realizing that they leaked $1 trillion economy in the world without protecting it. So this attention is all what you need is a white paper, 11-page document that changed the world forever. So these Google Mind engineers experimented with some software code, and they call it as an encoder and decoder, where a piece of software where I can put content and encode it, and then I can decode it, and I can do it this once, I can do it twice, thrice, 1,000 times, million times, billion times, multiple billion times. If I start doing that, and then if I pay attention, there are amazing results will come was their expectation. So this encoder and decoder, they called it transformer. That's the name they just gave in the white paper. So please read that white paper if you can't really understand, because it's a very technical paper, but at least look at the transformer picture. And if that transformer picture remains your mind, this subject will be very easy for you. So in 2017, they published it. And two guys in the world read that document and understood the importance of it. And that was Sam Altman and Elon Musk. That they said that there is something really in this. So they said that we'll use this white paper and the transformer model of encoding and decoding content and start a non-for-profit company called OpenAI, and we'll do research. We'll see how it works. And this was going under the radar. None of us knew it. There was some news here and there, but we just kept busy ourselves in our businesses. So from 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, they just kept on putting one piece of content after other into this transformer model. Now, I don't want to go into too much technology. Maybe if somebody is interested, we can conduct some trainings on this technology. But this encoder and decoder is built out of supervised and unsupervised machine learning techniques. So that's a different topic, and we'll touch upon that later. You can just leave it there that a transformer has supervised and unsupervised algorithms. So the results were that if I start putting the content into it, and as I said, attention is all you need was the title of the document. And why those engineers gave such a funny name to the white paper? So I prefer to, I generally use in America this example, and I can use this with an Indian audience also example, that in this room, if I shout very loudly now, without giving you attention, saying there's a snake. So the moment you hear snake, each one of you in this room is going to create or generate is or create are the two most important words, create or generate a reaction in your mind because we are paying attention to the word snake. Are you guys following me? Some of you have a bad impression or knowledge about snake, that it bites, it kills, it has a venom, it's poisonous. Some of you who followed yoga and the Indian spirituality feels it's the most conscious animal, so you want to go and pet it or you want to put it around neck like Shiva. Why these different reactions? Because both the reactions are not wrong, but both the reactions are based on the memory you have. And the memory was built through your education, your experience, your social interaction, somebody else's stories. Even if that snake has never bitten you, but you heard that Anand's cousin got a bite and died with that, you're just going to have that image and impression in your mind. So in this encoder, if we start putting the content and then we give attention to one word, it will generate reaction. And I'm sure overused word you all know is a prompt. So this snake was a prompt to your brain. I just said snake and it generated reaction. Now interestingly, what started happening is that I actually wanted Harsh to generate a reaction of a spiritual animal. But he got frightened and he started running from this room. I'm going to say Harsh is hallucinating. And I'm sure you all heard this hallucination word also overused in the context of AI. But it's actually not hallucinating. You have not given him the content. The training to Harsh's brain was it's a poisonous animal. When you see it, start running. So it generated the correct reaction. But you were expecting different reaction because you wanted him to react it as a spiritual animal. So that doesn't mean Harsh was wrong. Your expectation is wrong. Because you don't know what content you have trained it on. So therefore, this generative AI, the transformer, decoder, and encoder, the company like ChatGPT for 7 years kept on feeding content to this algorithm. And then 2022, they realized that if I give one word called prompt, it now generates human-like reaction. But it is not factual. Most of us today go to it as a factual information. And interestingly, now that I'm putting more and more content, and I'll come back to my snake example, and sorry to pick you up as an example, that to Harsh, I'm now teaching both. That snake is a spiritual animal and snake can bite also. So when I give now this snake shouting, he's going to react both ways and give a balanced reaction, and we're going to say now he's not hallucinating. Because at least part of the answer is what I wanted to. And that's what is happening to all of us when we are using ChatGPT. The amount of content you guys must see. By the way, OpenAI is losing every month billions of dollars. They are investing billions of dollars to just create this computing power and putting as much as textbooks, novels, content, research paper, by stealing from someone, by taking from someone, by buying from someone. But their relentless efforts on this is only putting content into this algorithm. And the more the memory you create, you will start seeing more factual answers. And there where Sam Altman talks about that, I'm going to develop the general intelligence. The general intelligence will become when you have almost all the cases covered into this algorithm. And it will take time. Are we going to go there? Yes, we are. And they're also now talking about that this general intelligence, I will make it available like electricity. Because when electricity was invented, it was more to light a bulb. But now if you see that same electricity is used for so many operations. We are using air conditioning on that, we are doing refrigerator on that, we are running our factory machines onto it, we are running cars onto it. So this artificial general intelligence will be available literally like a plug. You can plug into it and take it. And that's where the relentless efforts are going in. And most of the discussion today on AI is about generative AI. Only because its capability of reacting to a prompt and creating or generating content like human-like content. But that's at a large scale. How does it matter to MSME and small businesses and medium-sized businesses in place named Sambhajinagar? Should we just ignore it? And my appeal to you as a third appeal is don't. Yes, you should use it whatever is available in public domain, which I call it as a centralized AI. OpenAI has created this centralized model, has fed a lot of content to it. You can use it for summarizing documents, some drafting, creating some internal funny notes. You can make marketing campaigns, creating some artwork, very good usage of that. But when it comes to serious enterprise business, You don't want your data, you don't want your standard operating procedures to be put into a public model where you are going to lose your, because finally we all have some intellectual property. I just recently learned that in Sambhajinagar alone there are 56 large-scale automotive ancillaries who are supplying to all the automotive companies in Sambhajinagar. Now, why 56 companies exist here? There is some competitive advantage you guys have with each other, while you are all friends with each other, while you meet into association meetings, etc. But there is some, whether it is your cost management, inventory management, your workers, your quality, your whatever, there is something which is there in comparison with other 55 companies that therefore you are doing business today. You don't want to lose that intellectual property and edge. And therefore, my urge to is that look at generative AI, how it can be deployed on your own content. And I was just talking about legal example, that yes, ChatGPT I can use to draft a contract, I can use doing something, but that's hallucination can come in that. It can generate a reaction which you don't want, but you will feel like it's a good content and you will use it. Yesterday itself, the Chief Justice in Supreme Court of India whacked the guy saying that you are misusing this technology and you are just using now for everything, which is very dangerous. So, but the same technology as a third leg of the enterprise AI, you can use it in-house, where you will have your own model, where you have your own corporate memory fed to it, and therefore it will generate reactions on your prompt related to your business and not general content which is fed by someone else. So very interesting use cases for generative AI you can use, and if you combine predictive, interpretive, generative, and not necessarily all, permutation combinations of these three or one of them is going to finally help you in doing two things. Reduce your cost, increase your revenues, and therefore improve your profits. That finally you will be able to create sustainable businesses. This generation should carry on to next and should carry on to next, and we should occupy Auric and Shendra and Bedkin and then Jalna, and that's how the nation will get built. If some of us finally have to exit the business because we are not profitable, if we have to let go many people because we can't run the business, that's not nation building. If you really see how America was built was with the brand names like IBM. How Japan was built was the brand names like Toyota and Honda. So we have a potential here, and enterprise AI coming back to should be looked as extension of one more capability of our body. An organ which we give too much importance to is a brain. We were not worried about our hands are extended, our legs are extended, our eyes are extended, our ears are extended. But we are worried about the brain extending, therefore we are trying to put a blinder on that, saying this is not for me, this is for some big companies, I don't have data, this is not really matured. So you can have many excuses to avoid it. And you may not need in some area. I'm not pushing you guys to look into every area to look at. But for setting up a sustainable and a profitable business, here comes one more tool to this generation, which was not available to earlier generation. And as we travel, there's going to be more complex, more easily available, more democratized. But if you guys jump onto that bandwagon now, it can really benefit you in different ways, not only just running your enterprise successfully, but eventually building the nation. With that note, thank you, Harsh, for having me. I hope I could contribute a little bit. Harsha, I know you finished your call and you're back in the room, so you can hand off to him, unless somebody has any questions, if there's a question answer or not. Okay, otherwise we can do it over dinner.
So, Anand, you said that you have been into the business of AI prior to coming of these LLMs. So, what were you doing before LLMs, and how is it now after LLMs?
So LLM is a one tree in the jungle of AI. There is a whole jungle available other than LLM. So we were doing initially the predictive AI where we started. If you see today, my 50% of company revenue comes from predictive AI. If you see 80% of the business use cases in an enterprise like you is predictive AI. So that is what we did. Predictive AI and interpretive AI combined is called discriminative AI. Some pundits in America call it as a classic AI or traditional AI, but AI was always there. LLM came because of this whole story I told you, that I have a lot of content and I can give a prompt, and if I can pay attention, it creates human-like reactions. The Sam Altman and Elon Musk's efforts were actually to create a technology to write software codes. And therefore it was initially called large language model. that I can use a Java language, I can use Python, and I can use C++ and develop the code using those technologies. So post LLM, what has changed? It's very difficult. Actually, another interesting point, if I look back into my revenues, the year after ChatGPT was launched, our revenues dipped. Because every boardroom was saying, why do we need to talk to these nuts? I can get now $20 per month ChatGPT and solve all my problems. And 1 year I had to go like this, from shop to shop, boardrooms to boardrooms, customers to customers, cities to cities, to educate to them that LLM is a one tree in the jungle of AI. So what changed after that, and phenomenal change happening in software industry post LLM launch, is a user interface. You will all notice that no software which has a traditional dashboard, data entry screen looks are going to survive on the earth. All the new softwares coming in, which we also do, finally our AI, you can interact it with, is a conversational UI. So in the case of AI, having internal data fed into their own model and creating conversation is where the new, more additional service and product we added. So it actually helped us, but there's a tremendous education required, because the whole capital power behind the Gemini and the ChatGPT has, in their own interest, nothing wrong about it, but they have spread AI that's the only AI. But if you come to all of you and if we sit down tomorrow in seeing your problem statements, none of those problem statements can be solved by large language model. And another warning for you is it's called large language model, not large number model. Okay, so there is a reason why it is called large language model, that your number problems cannot be solved with that. So good change, but a lot of efforts to do education, communication, and motivation, finally to fall back onto classic AI. Thank you.
Very Thank you, Anand. So Anand talked about all these different data and different kinds of learning, supervised, unsupervised. We, Findability and NSBT, we developed a comic book together to explain these concepts, and we'll hand over this to you when you leave, which is good not only for you, but also for your kids. It runs across, so it can be used across. Partha sir, values, not valuation. That is Dr. Partha Ghosh. Execution cannot happen without vision. That is Dr. Partha Ghosh. And his anecdotes from his experiences of life are something so valuable, which he will bring to the table now, that it's mesmerizing when he talks about that. So, sir, over to you.
I don't know whether it's very mesmerizing, but thank you very much for setting up the backdrop. Anand means happiness, and I feel very happy that you created the backdrop on which I would like to build on. I will focus on the word lens, leadership for enterprise and national strategy, in the context of what Anand had to share. So let me summarize what you learned from Anand. I think the basic message is that we are in the middle of a very transformative change. Whether the word transformer came from Elon Musk or Sam Altman, doesn't matter, but really we are in the middle of a transformative change. And any transformational change needs a fundamental change in our heart, in our mindset, in our eyes. So I'll talk about leadership from that perspective, that we are in a very interesting point in time zone in history. And I was talking earlier this afternoon that we are literally dealing with multiple paradoxes. And this is very difficult for one to relate with, because on one side we can say we are highly connected, hyper-connected, 5G, 10G, XG, yet the world is more fragmented today. Would you agree? On one side we have got more knowledge, but yet the decisions we make are not as wise. On one side we have created institutions like United Nations, but today there are more conflicts in the world across, so much so that we have lost 250,000 lives only in last year. Similarly, can go on and on. I think the one which is favorite of mine, that when we are talking about AI, whether we're talking about quantum computing, whether we're talking about nanomaterials, we have understood the forces of nature. What is quantum computing? We understand how the fundamental quantum works. So these are forces of nature. We did not discover them, we have uncovered them. But as we understand nature, we are hurting the nature, so much so that the climate change is real, which we cannot go out of. So that is the challenge. The paradox is here, and I think it is time to take, when we talk about leadership, leadership is about dealing with uncomfortable paradoxes. And in the process, new ideas emerge, which you heard from Anand. And as new ideas emerge, we should engage with them with confidence, with courage, experiment, and life would be a series of experiments till we find the most important answer significant for our society. Now, that is what I would like to discuss, that if that's the situation we are in, then what is enterprise? I will really try to build on that, leadership to enterprise to national strategy. Now, Anand, I'm glad you talked about IBM, the brand, the McDonald's, the brand, Coca-Cola, the brand, and each all started with very small efforts. Many of them, including electricity, Thomas Edison, did not finish high school. But they gave the world brands, solutions, which the world celebrates. You go to any airport in this country, you do not find Indian brands, but you find KFC, you find McDonald's, you find all kinds, Subways, but any Indian brand. Because we Indians love to deal with foreign names. We feel a bit uncomfortable dealing with our own names. Now, in the world of AI, the most important thing that we have to deal with is the truth within, the consciousness, because the AI supports basically what we do with our left brain, logical thinking, as Anand beautifully explained, the predictive intelligence versus other three types of intelligence we talked about. But the imaginative part, which AI can also do, it will get there, but which is the right brain development. This is another thing that as leaders we have to think of in an organization, how we could help people develop their right brain as opposed to left brain, because left brain work will be done better by AI than we can do. Last night I was talking to Mr. Kagliwal about the passion of an entrepreneur, which I had the privilege to see in a person like Soichiro Honda, who also didn't finish high school, by the way. I had the privilege to see that in a person like Mr. Morita, who finished high school. He was a product of Tokyo University in physics. But the next generation, I did not see that. I seen Honda today is very different from Honda when Honda was run by Soichiro Honda. Now that tells us something very important. That in a world which is changing rapidly, the founders of a company, many of you are founders of companies, many of them are entrepreneurs, how they will maintain that culture of what allowed them to be an entrepreneur and pass it on, and that too in a rapid succession because the technologies are changing very rapidly. So the formula that may have worked for me as a success story will not work for someone after 5 years because my formula has become outdated. Would you agree with that, Anand? I mean, Anand is a very successful entrepreneur. He is a product of this soil. That's what's the new title you have given him. Bhumiputra. Bhumiputra was the first time I heard the name, not in this country, by the way, in Malaysia. Malaysia, there's a term called Bhumiputra, which was introduced by this prime minister when I was serving him, Mahathir. He had a special reservation for Bhumiputra, people who are born in the country. But we have a Bhumiputra here, so congratulations. And in the spirit of that, I think a very important point, that we as Indians, as Bhumiputras, not only one state, but we look at the whole country as a whole, Bharat as we call it today, I think has a great opportunity in the middle of these paradoxes. In the field of AI and beyond, because today is AI, so I don't know what will be the next curve. Elon Musk is a fantastic personality. Because I had the privilege to meet him, by the way. long time ago when he was building PayPal. So now he will not recognize me most probably. But PayPal, when he was building, I met him in San Francisco. But I tell you something, when I met him, it was a very brief conversation. In fact, I was speaking at that conference. At that time, as a consultant, I was invited to talk about future of information technology in society. That was the talk. IT and society. How would society change? But one thing I noticed, the limited interaction, that he's not, when I felt he's looking at me, he's actually not looking at something beyond. I could see that. I don't know whether you've noticed, even when you see in TV, that he's somewhere else. Now, the reason I thought of bringing up Elon Musk here, was if you look at what he has done, PayPal, he digitized money first. Then he got into Tesla, digitizing a car. Basically, Tesla, I also have a Tesla like yours. The Tesla is basically, I feel I'm inside the iPhone, which has got wheels. Huh? I'm inside the iPhone with wheels. And then he's not satisfied. Now he's into energy. He's going to change all the shingles of the homes because they will become solar. He'll absorb energy. He has got an energy system. And then he has got boring, which is a very high-speed trains underneath based on some kind of a magnetic leviation as well as some kind of fluid dynamics. And then he's talking about Neuralinks. And then you've got Starlinks, and then he's traveling space, all in one generation. And that's an example of what I would call a combination of AI and imagination at work. The common denominator is AI. Even ChatGPT is Elon Musk. In other words, you are seeing Thomas Edison, Rabindranath Tagore, and think of another scientist, Albert Einstein, all in one. All in one. Now, what does it tell us? That means that how do we create such personalities in our country? When this AI summit is going on, I think inviting Elon Musk or Sam Altman should not be the purpose. I was saying the purpose should have been meet with a person like Anand, one or two such personalities, have a chat. How do we create personalities like Elon Musk? And I know when I look at NEP 2020, I don't see anything extraordinary. It's minor flexibility. That was the time to think of how to develop an education system where the enterprise and the national strategy will come together. I'm moving to the next part. Now, what does it mean? I saw that in Japan. Japan, and many of you know that MITI, which is the Ministry of Economic and Trade, I stands for industry. Now, their role is every 10 years, very smart people come together, a group of 10, they develop a vision for the next decade. So I had the fortune of reading 3 such vision papers, the 50s, the 60s, actually 4, 70s and 80s, because I was invited by CII to make a presentation to Rajiv Gandhi in 1986. I still remember the date, September 6, 1986. It was a Saturday in Ashok Hotel. Now, the reason I brought it, in preparation of that, I read these 4 decades because my thinking was if Rajiv Gandhi could only take the MITI model to develop the connection between enterprise and national strategy. And what is that? MITI works very hard to understand what's going on in the world, then look at Japan, and then decide in the next 10 years, these are the 3 things we have to accomplish. Not everything. We are doing semiconductors, we are talking semiconductors, we are talking space, we are talking submarine, and we have limited resources. But Japan is saying, in the 50s, coming out of the war, when it was thrashed, that in 50s we have to remove hunger and cold from our citizen. In the process, build the best infrastructure of people moving around, the trains. The train concept, the Shinkansen, was born in the 50s because for industry to develop, people should move easily from any corner of the country to another corner. In fact, if you go to Japan, you can stay in a small city. Within 5 minutes, you'll find a train, which is a local train, which will take you to Shinkansen, which is a bullet train. And from there, you can go to another end of Japan in 4 to 5 hours. And that was the strategy that it has to be the best in the world. So 50s was building up the infrastructure. In the process, be the strongest in steel. Nippon Steel was the most, it still is actually, because that's what was about to buy US Steel, as you know. Become competitive in steel, competitive in electricity generation. Japan is to buy all the oil from outside, but the cost of electricity in Japan was the lowest, because transformation of oil to electricity, again, transformer to oil to electricity was cheapest. In the 60s, the target was we will be strongest in automotive, we'll be strongest in motorbikes, and we'll be strongest in shipbuilding. Once upon a time, 8 out of 10 ships in the world was built in Japan, 8 out of 10 ships. Now, what's happening? The reason I'm giving the story, one is having a strategy for the nation and then providing the conditions to the local enterprise that you guys have to win. No incentives, but providing the infrastructure, providing the education so that Toyotas can win, and Toyotas indeed win, Toyotas, Hondas, and many of them. Now, 70s, what happened? They focused on electronics. See, they are moving from low-end steel to car to electronics, moving to higher-end products. Electronics, Sony's and Matsushita's took over the world, Toshiba's. Into the first laptop I used was Toshiba laptop, before Steve Jobs and HP people did introduce their laptops. It was in Japan again. So the big lesson is that time has come for India, given the transformational moment that we are in, thanks to what's happening because of AI, and not only AI, to be honest with you, neuroscience, a lot of work is going on in neuroscience. A lot of work is going on AI, a lot of work is going on nanomaterials, a lot of work is going on quantum computing, and all of them are converging. Now, in times of convergence with AI at the core, we have to think of how do we manage our thinking so that we can connect all of them and manage convergence. So education becomes a very, very important topic, and it cannot be just the extension of what the Western world built in the last 500 years. Because that was education which is Cartesian in nature, education which teaches you how to reason, how to logic, which was good. But if AI does that work better than I could do, the value of that education is relatively become less, but then the value of the right brain development, inner conscious development becomes important, which was Nalanda and Taxila just to focus on. Olden days, inner conscience. So could India, building on our experience from the past, building on the strings of knowledge in Vedic literature, taking advantage of what's going on in the world of AI, create a new paradigm, which is not artificial intelligence, but awakened intelligence. That's the AI of the future, awakened intelligence. But for that, we need a national strategy, a new term. We have to connect the enterprise to come together, because mind you, a garden looks beautiful when there are 1,000 flowers blooming. A country looks beautiful when 1,000 companies are blooming. And so companies has to be in resonance with the strategy of the country. There will be beautiful flowers, the flowers in Mizoram. You know, last night, Mr. Kaglio and I was talking to a woman from Mizoram. She looks at India with certain ways. Some of them we learned, right? We learned something about her. But are we exciting her as much as we are exciting someone living in Dharoka in Gujarat? They're all equally important to us. So that's where I'm thinking in terms of national strategy, which I shared with Manmohan Singh, that we should decentralize the country, which means some ministries could be in Mizoram, agro-ministry, but for the country. Some ministry could be in Dharoka, for the country. some could be in Kottakkal, in Kerala, for the country. As a result, what's happening, every state feels, I'm for the country. That's nice, because AI helps, use the word decentralization, right? AI helps decentralization. So the guy in Kottakkal, he would speak Malayalam, translated in the cloud. In fact, Anand's iPhone is doing that already. So he will speak, not to me in Bengali or English, he will speak in Marathi, so that his Marathi gets enriched. Then he will get a Nobel Prize. We want Nobel Prizes coming in Marathi, as Gitanjali got Nobel Prize in Bengali. So, but that will happen only if we are treating our mother tongues with highest level of respect. That's another thing I learned moving around the country. When I go to Japan, Japanese people only speak Japanese, and they're very proud. If they do not speak English, they do not feel that they are illiterate. We feel if someone doesn't speak English, he's illiterate. Seriously, in this country, that is the tendency. But Japan, you don't feel that way. In South Korea, you don't feel. Taiwan, you don't feel. In China, you don't feel. In Germany, you don't feel. You know, Germans speak German. And they speak very good German. And many of the Nobel Prizes are written, the papers are written in German. But Jagadish Chandra Bose, who had the first waves theory before Marconi, couldn't get the Nobel Prize. Marconi did, because he was living in a country which is ruled by some other country. And India has lived that for the last 1,000 years. So I think, you know, I feel personally, I'm talking very honestly, that last 1,000 years have destroyed our backbone. We have lost our confidence. That's why do you like KFC? That's why do you like McDonald's? That's why we like Coca-Cola. But our drinks have disappeared. Though this country is rich with drinks, lassi, and all kinds of lassi, mango lassi too. But how to market that? Similarly, if you look at our food habits, from Gujarat to Assam, all kinds of things, why are businessmen not marketing them all over the world? But McDonald's, simple burger, you know how the McDonald's started? Because he noticed that Americans are working 2 shifts, the mothers do not have time, the mother after shift picks up McDonald's for the kid. That's how it, like a dhaba shop started. But the ambition was to take it global. So we need to be living ambitiously. We have to awaken our intelligence, take advantage of artificial intelligence, but not neglect the knowledge resident in our Vedic literature. There's a lot of knowledge, because the knowledge is not only about the Sanskrit words, but the sound the Sanskrit word demands, what Anand would call the vibrations. How to take advantage of the vibrations to create a model which is beyond LLM. Just think of that, beyond LLM. That is a word used perhaps by Musk. But why we are always trying to catch up with people on the West? Why don't we leave? That's the discussion going on in China right now. China is not saying that we have to catch up. We have to do things differently. And somehow that's where I think our real challenge is. The leadership means doing things differently. We need different lens. I'm glad that you have used all the word. First, we have to adjust our lens so we can see opportunities better. Then we have to adjust the calculus, how we calculate things. And then we have to adjust our mindset to create what I will call, which our prime minister called advanced India. But yeah, to advance India, we have to develop confidence, inner confidence, where we would say, you know, I have a reservation about KFC, but I like chicken tandoori. We have reservations about Japanese ramen. We like, think of a new term, biryani. And let these brand names appear all over the world. And the last point I would like to make, when the country gets into the right mode, Mr. Kaglia and I were discussing yesterday, that my only dream that I have, could I, maybe Anand, you and I could work together on that, could we in the next 10 years work with you to create 75 brands? 75 brands which will shine all over the world. I am willing to commit to that, because it would need hard work, but it's possible, because Japan, that was pre-AI, between 1960 to 1975, created 85 brands known all the world. 85 brands. We talk about Toyota, Honda, but we forget Yamaha, forget Kawasaki. You can go on and on. In the fragrance business, Shiseido, Kao. In fashion, Issey Miyake, Hanai Mori, I can go on and on. In every field, Japan created in 15 years with only 100 million people. After coming out of the war, 185 brands in 15 years. Now we have got AI, which is basically makes us move faster. We are much more global. So we should be able to do, if 100 million could do 85 brands in 15 years, could we in 10 years commit to do 150 brands? That defines a country, because otherwise, what is the country all about? We have to be known. We have to win the gold medals in Olympics, right? Norway has got 12 gold medals already in the Winter Olympics, country with 6 million people. Japan has got 7. In the European sports, but unfortunately India is 0-0-0, but people say it's a hot country. But that's not true. Go to Darjeeling, go to Kashmir, go to Ladakh. There are a lot of slopes. We can ski. But we are playing the easiest game, cricket, no body contact. Because someone told me, if you really want to build a nation, you have to play sports where there's a lot of body contacts and a lot of risk-taking. That's what I was told. And because I always talk about these things, with a lot of love for the country that we all want to be proud of, we should be proud of, because we are putra of this state, or daughters and sons of this state. So with this, I'd like to thank you. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for us to build a nation which is different from what we are doing today. The summits and all these things. I've read also the 5-year plans. Another thing, Mr. Kagliwal, I want to share with you, that every 5-year plan has one common word. We are at the crossroads. And we have always been at the crossroads. Abdul Kalam, whom we respect, wrote in his book, India in 2020, and the book was written in 1996. There's a quote there that I know by 2020, I'm sure by India by 2020 would be one of the advanced nations, if not earlier. If not earlier. That he wrote in 1996. In 2020, our GDP per capita was $2,500. Average GDP of the world is $12,000. Vietnam is already $10,000. Japan is 45. United States is about 70. So what are we talking about? We have all the words, but so I think we have to become real and take advantage of what our sensei, I call him Anand Sensei, has taught us in artificial intelligence. It's no longer artificial, it's real, and we have to awaken ourselves towards awakened intelligence. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, let's have some Q&A. But both for Anand, because I'm more interested as a student of Anand. So please, any questions, comments? Yes, please. Yeah. Very simple. Which company or which person do you think has the highest debt in this country? Yeah? You know who it is. The Ambanis. Because when you develop your ability to generate income, the best way to further increase the income is to leverage your trust, which is you take debt, because You take $100 of debt today, you retire it after 10 years, the value of $100 has become $60. That's one. That's on a lighter side. On a serious side, one of the problems of the United States is short-termism. When people like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, they build their country's manufacturing infrastructure. They have a long-term vision. But in 80s onwards, I would say more in the 90s, when Jack Welch came into power, unfortunately, though he's considered the big hero, but I never felt that way. His mantra was that if this factory is not working, let's close it down, let's outsource to China. But as a real managing director of a company, if his factory is not working, and he reports to me, my job will be help him to make his factory competitive vis-a-vis the Germans or the Japanese. That did not happen. That's why the Germans and the Japanese automotive company first took over the US market, though once upon a time US was a dominant player. So the Jack Welch formula became very popular in the United States. So many manufacturing companies, whenever they had faced hardships, instead of fixing the factory and how to make it competitive, they closed it down, found a Chinese partner, negotiated very hard, and Chinese at that time were very eager to get the product. If they were making it 100, they will say, you have to make it at 60. Poor Chinese worked hard, but in the process, they developed the manufacturing muscle. The China today is strong in manufacturing for three reasons. Firstly, their businessmen were very, I would say, humble, not very profit-oriented, but very eager to build global relationships. So I will serve GM in their terms, but I want to get good orders, big orders. And that's happened repeatedly in every industry. Today, appliance industry, most of the appliances come from Haier. Haier bought GE appliances, and GE once upon a time was the biggest in appliance manufacturing in the world. Now all that is being manufactured in China. So in the process, what happened, the trade balance went negative. So trade balance negative means what? I buy more than I earn. So obviously, my debt starts increasing. Second reason is tremendous focus on defense. I think it's almost trillion, huh? 1 trillion. It's almost $1 trillion money is spent on defense. So America has become, I would say, sucked up into a system where there are too many commitments from outside, and the world loves it, by the way. But China owns most of the debt, China and Japan. Asia is supporting America. But more they own, they become more dependent on America. You cannot upset America. But Donald Trump would say, well, I'm not going to pay the debt and honor the debts. This is a very difficult time. I mean, I would have loved to speak on that subject. Apart from what Anand talked about, the transformation happening because of AI, and then I talked about the 5 paradoxes. But the bigger challenge is the way the democracy is not working anymore. The checks and balances in many countries, including the United States, partly maybe in this country, in Russia, in Hungary, in Turkey, the democracy that got built up is getting challenged. So I think that's another big challenge for us. How do we build the future of the world? That's why, by the way, we are having a conference on February 24th. The title of the conference is happening in Kolkata, and the title of the conference is Parliament of Enlightened Thoughts Towards Collaborative Prosperity. And the idea is Renaissance 2.0 for the world. It's not for India, not for Kolkata, not for Bengal, but we chose Calcutta because, as many of you know, Calcutta gave birth to what? The God particle, the most fundamental particle of the universe. So we thought, let's choose a city which had the courage to give birth to a God particle. Now we have to give birth to a new S-curve. Could we do it in Calcutta? It's being hosted by IIT Kharagpur, 75th Platinum Jubilee, yeah. So, I've shared the Zoom link. You can join on Zoom. It's being done internationally. It'll be attended by 2-3 Nobel Prize winners. One of them is Wolfgang Ketterle, who got Nobel Prize in quantum physics. Big fan of Satyan Bose, boson, God particle. So he's joining. Jeffrey Sachs in economics, he's joining. And there's several others. I mean, I do not want to do no name dropping. What is important is the content is about spirituality, that how do we bring more morality into our society. Second one would be on economics and politics, how to go beyond socialism and capitalism, or what would be the next phase of democracy. The third would be science and technology. If it's moving so fast, how come so many people are left behind? We did not discuss today, we talk about digital divide. How about AI divide? AI divide could happen. On the other side, AI could solve the division problem if the AI is targeted to the base of the pyramid. So that would be a third subject. And the final subject would be education. That if the world is changing so dramatically, shouldn't we change the education system from kindergarten till today? Anand and I were talking with Harsh about the cleanliness of the city. Aurangabad is an evolving city, should be clean, but look at the roads. You know that. Same thing is happening in Bangalore, which was once upon a time a darling city, the garden city. Today is one of the dirtiest cities. Hyderabad is becoming dirty. I heard Pune. I didn't go to Pune recently, but someone told me Pune is happening. You said right? Pune is happening. So I think, what are we doing? So we have to change our habits. And Anand made a good point. It's a country with 1.5 billion people. Government cannot do it. It's our individual behaviors. Individual behaviors are shaped in schools and in families. In Japan, the young boys are cleaning toilets. That's what they're taught. They're taught 3 things. How to bow down at the age of 3. How to respect each other. They're literally taught what should be the angle of the bow. Secondly, they're taught how to clean toilets. And it's their duty that every day they have the duty to clean the toilets, to clean the boards, clean the corner of the, classrooms. That's going on. And that's how the character gets built. Why don't we do that? And Harsh said that the parents would complain. I hell with the parents, because these children will become parents soon. They will become parents. So let's start with, let them complain. So I think we have to make some tough decisions, and that's where we are today. Sorry for touching so many points, but these are real points that we have to think of to build the nation. So, yes, sir.
Post the war is the only example in the entire world wherein the entire population gave up the freedom of taking decisions for itself. It's something of that sort. So that wasn't easier for them to make the tough calls then, and by then slowly inculcating the kind of thought process that we are speaking right now. It was inculcated then, and it has kind of trickled down.
That's very true.
Yeah. So is it really true that
No, there are 3 points here. Japanese transformation started long time ago. See, just to look, if you compare India and Japan, when they saw the first Europeans to come to the Japanese shore in 1600s, they immediately felt that Japan is not as advanced as Europe. If they come in, we would lose out. Japan would be taken over. So Japan basically closed the country. So Japan was closed between 1600s to almost mid-1800s. But while they were closed, they were building up their muscle, particularly focused on education. Education and the various parts of their small kingdoms that started coming together, because we have, as Japan, to rise. Then 1870s, Meiji transformation happened. What did Meiji do? It's the equivalent of Rajiv Gandhi was modernizing India. Meiji said, I will pick up the brightest of the 20 people in the country, send them to Europe. That time America was not in the limelight. Europe, and understand what's going on in Europe. They went around for 2 years studying Europe. They were very impressed with Germany and Holland, by the way. Holland particularly, and Germany, because Holland, they have these beautiful ways of controlling the water. They like that, how to work with nature. And they also like the German factory discipline. So they came in and they made recommendations. And you know what the recommendations were? That Japan, if you have to compete in manufacturing, we have to change our outfit. Because they used to wear, like where we wear the kimono style, men and women. That with the kimono, you cannot work in a factory. We have to wear Western clothes. Second recommendation was that they're strong physically, and the manufacturing have to be strong. So we have to eat beef, because much of Japan is to eat fish, and many of them were vegetarian. So diet was changed, second. And third was education, that we have to ensure that every individual is equally educated, including, because they found in Germany, in France, only near the towns and cities, people are educated, but not in the countryside. But they said we have to go ahead of them by educating everyone, every village, every town, equally well. So if you go to Japan, even in the smallest town, the standards of schools are as good as the best school in Tokyo. There's no difference. And those choices were made in Asia. So then came the war, but then they defeated Russia in 1905. So Japan was a strong country, so much so they could attack Pearl Harbor. I mean, think of what, that time the goal was that we want to control the world, Japanese flag would be all over the world. The land of the rising sun, that sun should be spread. That was the nature of ambition of that small island. But then, what happened? It became too ambitious, shut down. Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened. Everything was on fire. But again, they came out. They said, not by war, but by economic muscle, we'll prove to the world Japan is still there. And indeed, 85 brands. So what could I say? I mean, Japan is a case study. You're right. A lot to learn. I always tell, when I was invited to give this speech in 1986, September 6th, I never forget that. Unfortunately, again, Rajiv Gandhi couldn't attend. It was designed for Rajiv Gandhi. He was stuck in Harare for the Third World Alignment Movement. And that time, India was the chairman of the Third World Alignment. So it was chaired by, instead of Rajiv Gandhi, L.K. Jha. L.K. Jha, if you remember. He was there with Abid Hussain. Ratan Tata was the chairing on behalf of CEI. And it was a very good crowd. V.K. Krishnamurthy was chairman of SAIL, D.N. Ghosh, chairman of State Bank of India, then Mukund Shah, Mr. Shah, Viren Shah. Viren Shah. It was a fantastic crowd. Montek was there, outer circle, even Sam Petroda was there. There were two circles in a room like this. And it was a fantastic crowd. Now I feel, my God, I was only 35 years old, but it was the best crowd I met. But in that meeting also I felt India is living on slogans. I'm just sharing with you 2 questions I was asked. Abid Hussain made the point. No, first L.K. Jha, because he was the representative of the Prime Minister. L.K. Jha's first question was, Mr. Ghosh, when I was advising Mrs. Gandhi, I used to always wonder whether we should follow, this is interesting, growth-led exports versus export-led growth. Beautiful rhyme. I said, I was a bit surprised, but I was much more courageous than today, because I said, I didn't understand the question, why can't both exist? Oh, he loved it. Both can exist. I said, yes. Places where you are strong, you should be growth, export-led growth. You export as much as you could so you can create employment, because domestic market may not have people but no money in the pocket, they wouldn't buy. And some industries it would be growth-led exports or export-led growths. So it depends upon how you look at each industry. Then they quietened down. It was very interesting. Then Abid Hussain asked, Mr. Ghosh, I was talking about chappals. He said, I said, chappals should be made so that every Indian can wear. That could be mass production. Because the question was, what is the difference between mass production versus production for mass? See, they were playing with words continuously. Mass production versus production for mass. I said, what do you mean? So I said, mass production should be when you want to make something cheap. So let the chappals, so that every Indian can wear a chappal, should be mass production. But on the other side, production for mass, let them mass produce chappals for the world, which is handmade, so they can get the employment. I said, that's a good idea. So that was the nature of discussion. But I realized they are living in a world of slogans, and they love it. And that's how they score. So I think India has to come out of all this. We have to say things as we see it, as Anand very, very beautifully talked about, the three kinds of intelligences. How do you manage this and bring it together to create a new world? But I can go on because you don't want this, because we can have another session purely on country strategy, which is the national strategy. Thank you very much. Oh, you want to? Is it okay? I mean, I don't mind.
I was thinking that based on what you were giving examples of, like multiple countries which focused on healthcare and like education as a backbone of a nation building. And borrowing from like Anand's thought of having an enterprise AI, if we have a national AI which replaces the weird thinking of our politicians, it will truly will benefit the nation to go towards a right direction.
That's where I think you should take the leadership.
Words from me as an academician. Yesterday we met two very distinguished professors from SP Jain. And they gave us an example. We told them we face problems with the school attendance, children not showing up for compulsory activities, industry leaders coming, industry visits. And this is not new. This happens in SP Jain. So I said, okay. So he said, let us give you an example. We had Ratan Tata coming to the institute, SP Jain, and our children didn't show up. Now, why I share this with you is that you're parents, but you're also leaders of companies and institutions, and you have the possibility to influence many people in your organization and in your ecosystem. So I think this whole process of focusing on character, focusing on values, as a community, we all have to increase it and increase it beyond our personal spheres. By chance, we came across a document called Chapter 16 of the latest economic survey of the Government of India. And we have some excerpts to share with you when you leave from here. But this Chapter 16 gives examples of several countries like Germany, US, Taiwan, Singapore, Korea, Japan, how the private enterprise is over there embedded the national mission into their company mission. So for them, it was always, as that document talks, and this is in our economic survey, that capability building always came before profits, before the quantum of profits actually. So they all wanted to be profitable, but capability building was, values building was very important, and how they aligned. And therefore, this came up that enterprise and national strategy have to go hand in hand. So with that note, we have gone from artificial intelligence to awakened intelligence. Time for something to eat and network over dinner. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. Thank you.